see this shirt. I don't know.
Morning, Josh. We're here with the morning, everyone. We're here with the RotoPros Sunday morning pre-lock show for Week 9. How you doing today, Josh?
Doing excellent, Chris. How are you? Got an extra hour on those clocks last night. Got my RotoPros tee on. Everything's good.
Yeah, speaking of that RotoPros tee, just make sure, everyone, I put it in the YouTube chat here, put it on Twitter, put it in the Slack chat channel. Make sure to join our, we have a DraftKings contest this week where the winner gets the cash from that contest plus a RotoPros t-shirt like Josh has got on there. And the winner will also get to play us in a 5-man us 4 from RotoPros. Will get to play us next week as well. So make sure to get in there. It's a lot of fun. It's cheap. It's only $2 to enter. So the prizes aren't that big. Besides, you get the RotoPros t-shirt and a chance to play us for bigger prizes next week. So make sure to get in there. So this week we've got another 10-game slate on the main slate, and that's because there's 6 teams: Cincy, Indy, the Giants, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Jaguars are all on bye weeks this week. So we're done with London games, but we're now into 6 teams on bye weeks, so we're back to that 10-game slate. Makes things a little tricky. I was making some early slate lineups, trying to build a cash game lineup for the early slate today, and you take out those 3 games on the afternoon slate there, and it's pretty tough to build lineups. So this week's going to be a little bit different, especially I know you've seen the record price for Todd Gurley is at 11-2 now, which is just absolutely crazy. So we'll talk about that as well. But, before we get started into some picks and injury news, let's just take a look at some of the high-scoring games this week. So we've got 4 games with a 49.5 Vegas total or higher. We've got Tampa Bay and Carolina at 54.5, Kansas City at Cleveland at 51.5, Detroit and Minnesota at 49.5, and the Rams and New Orleans at 60.5. So I guess, like I asked you last week, which game are you most confident in having a ton of points? And then which game, I guess, would you maybe not fade, but which game do you think maybe hits the under out of those 4?
It's so tough, man. I'll tell you one thing. Carolina's that's going to be a shootout. I mean, you got Fitzmagic back too, so I really feel confident about that being a back and forth, not just like a quick little like Carolina, goes up 21-0 or something, or 28-0, and you have to worry about, like Jameis can't move the ball, he's turning it over 4 or 5 times. Like maybe that'll make some of the more higher price guys risky in that game. No, I don't think you have to worry about that. In fact, all I'm worried about is not having enough exposure to this game. I like DJ Moore a lot because – actually, no, sorry. I'll save that for the game by game. But just talking vaguely about these, I do think Carolina is a lock for that over. I really feel similar to the Cleveland game because Mahomes and Mayfield obviously had a pretty famous showdown in college against each other where it was Texas Tech versus what's it called? Excuse me. Oklahoma. So it was a bit of a mismatch for Baker at the time. So it's kind of switched a little bit, and now it's a little bit of a mismatch in favor of Mahomes. So this game's in Cleveland. Cleveland just fired their head coach. I like that because guys who maybe were a little like lackadaisical before start to really play a little harder because they actually have to try for their jobs and they're auditioning for their roles next year. And then you get this New Orleans Rams game. Like this could be the biggest test of the year for the Rams in terms of them staying undefeated. New Orleans fully healthy, pretty much a primetime game with only like 3 games going on at 4. And just in the dome, oh man. The only thing I'll say is 60 seems a little high, but I could see this game going for 80, or something around there. So it's like, what was the 4th game you mentioned? Because whatever
Detroit, Minnesota, 49.5.
That's the one that I'm choosing by default, just because I like the other one so much. Your boy Diggs is going to miss the game probably, so look for Thielen and Treadwell to get a bump. But I do think Rudolph and Thielen are the guys who get the real biggest target share boosts with Diggs out. So sorry, that's a bit of a loaded answer, but my answer is that if I have to pick one out of those 4 over 49, that would be at least attractive to me, or the under call, it would be the Detroit-Minnesota game, and those other 3 are just very appetizing.
No, and I think a lot of people would agree with you there that, there's going to be a lot of ownership in those other 3 games.
Totally.
And I think we can maybe get some, a bit of an advantage in GPPs going with Detroit, Minnesota, and that's kind of one way I'm going this week. I'll talk about it when we get to that game going forward here. But yeah, so let's jump in. We're going to look at some injuries. We're going to go game by game, talk about the injuries first, and maybe some of our plays from that game, and then we'll be answering questions as well. So if you have any questions, make sure to put that into the YouTube chat, monitoring that as the video goes on, and I will answer them while we're talking on air, just so that in case you miss it live, that the answers will be posted in the chat as well. So the first game up this week, we got the Jets at Miami, and on the Jets side of things, Enunwa is going to be out again. Robbie Anderson is expected to play, so we can kind of forget about Jermaine Kearse. I was kind of thinking about it if Robbie Anderson was going to be out, just because he's seen a lot of targets last week. But kind of like we talked about in last week's show, he went from being in the slot to playing on the outside, playing one of the better cornerbacks, and he just put up a big giant dud once again. So I think with Robbie Anderson back, he may be a little more attractive going back into the slot. But I'm still out on Kearse, unless maybe you're trying to be absolutely contrarian in GPP, because he has burned people 2 weeks in a row. That's kind of a recipe for like super low ownership. Not that he's a guy that has big upside anyway. And then on the Miami side of things, Kenny Stills is expected back. So I'm just wondering, I guess, more.
He's out.
Stills is going to be out?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that. That was last night. I was making that up. So are you back on Parker this week, I guess, was my question for the Miami side.
Yes. Look, the matchup's great. You know what I mean? Like the volume should be there, but I've heard some reports that the field is in horrendous condition, and that bothers me for passing game. So I'm fading.
Cool. Yeah, that's kind of a fade game for me. I may be looking with Powell out for the season. I may be looking at Crowell for GPPs. I mean, the field's going to be hard to get traction, but I think, with blocking and stuff like that, I think it's going to be favored to the run game a little more, but I can see this game being well under the total. So the touchdown upside's limited. So this is a game that I'm really not paying attention to really whatsoever. So moving on, we have Chicago at Buffalo. Now, this is where your chalk defense is going to be this week, because Buffalo is starting Nathan Peterman with Derek Anderson and Allen both out. So are you paying up from the price on Chicago Bears? Is like it's the biggest gap between the top defense and the second tier of defenses all season. Is that a defense that you think is a must play in cash? And are you willing to fade it in GPPs?
Yeah, I think it's a must play in cash, and I would be willing to fade it in GPPs. I'm not playing a ton of lineups today, but if I were, like, I mean, I don't know. There's not that many options. It's kind of chalk today, but like it's not like chalk because like it's chalk. Like it deserves to be chalk. Like Peterman I've never seen a quarterback like him in my entire life of watching football, straight up in the NFL. I've never seen a quarterback who I feel bad for the guy. I really do. Like it's physically impossible for his confidence to be, unless the guy is just like amazing at just tuning everyone out. Like apparently his own team is doubting him and stuff. It's just like, I don't know. I hope for his sake kind of that he has a good day today. I really do. But I'm not betting on it with my lineups. I'm taking Bears.
1 touchdown, 4 interceptions so far this year. Barely touched 100 yards.
Outscore the Bills offense.
Yeah, definitely. I like Chicago there. And seeing as we're kind of talking about defenses, a couple that I like fading to this week. And there's not a ton of options. If you're on DraftKings, I like going down to Pittsburgh, especially at 2,300. They've got, looking at adjusted sack rate, they're ranked 5th on their defensive line, while the Ravens are 24th. And this kind of feels like I'll talk to it a little more when we get to the game, but it feels like more of a bruising, AFC battle between these two division rivals like they've had in the past. So I can see it being low scoring in a defensive game. And even if the Ravens do put up 20, 24 points, these defenses that are low price like that can still put up enough, double-digit points. We've seen it earlier in the year quite a bit. The Jets a couple times were losers in their game, but still their defense put up double-digit points. So, I mean, that's something that we can look at. Not a lot of people will look at for teams that are maybe going to lose the game. Not that I'm saying Pittsburgh's going to lose, but that's something I definitely look at. And then another one, I don't mind Denver either going up against Houston, who is ranked 23rd in their adjusted sack rate when looking at their O-line either. They get a lot of pressure on Watson himself. So definitely something I'm looking at there. But yeah, back to the game by game here. The next game up is we talked about a little bit. You touched on Tampa Bay and Carolina. Ronald Jones is out, and I kind of want your take as a super cheap. You said you're not playing a lot of lineups, but if you were playing, say, 50 lineups this week, would you try and get a Barber as a punt play? Is he super cheap on DK? Like, it's amazing to see a guy. Here's the thing. He's under 4K, so it's hard to see a running back.
The answer is yes.
Okay, cool. I won't even get into it too much. In the losing game script, he's seen 19 carries and 85 yards and a touchdown last week in a loss. So, I mean, even in bad game scripts, at 3,600, or I think he's 3,600, it's crazy that he's that price. He can help you get.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yep. Then definitely deserves some
cool. I'm just making sure that I'm not crazy there, because
it's a high game. It's a high over/under, high total. The game script most likely. I mean, look, you don't know what to expect with Fitzmagic, but most likely, just because Tampa's secondary is so terrible, it's most likely going to be digging out of a hole. Ronald Jones is hurt, right?
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah, and not that he's this big threat anyway, but it's really only 2 backs now on the team. Jaquiz is the better receiving threat, but he's not going to play, even half the snaps. So, Barber will be probably like a 60-70% of the snaps type running back today.
Yeah.
I would see no reason why he wouldn't have between 10. I don't know how many touches he's had recently, but I would guess just based off his situation, he could safely have about 12 touches today, which isn't bad at that price.
I think that's a floor. Like I said last week, he had 19 carries in a loss.
Oh, he did? Okay. Sorry. So then, they should have.
I think 15 is his floor.
15's a floor. 15's a floor, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's a good situation.
Yeah, it's not like he's a good running back by any means, but yeah, he's super cheap. It's a punt play, and if he's going to get 15 touches for someone that's 3,600 on DraftKings, I think it's worth it to help you. I think there's some opportunities, and I'll get to them in later games, to pay up for some higher price wide receivers to differentiate your lineups, just because of where some of the chalk has fallen this week. But yeah, on to the other side of the game, we got Carolina, and Torrey Smith's out again. So one player, I mean, Cam Newton's probably going to be the chalkiest quarterback on the board. Totally. He's hitting value every single week, and now he gets the best matchup of the year against Tampa Bay's crappy secondary. This could be his second 300-plus passing game of the year. Even if it isn't, he runs the ball enough that he gives you that value. But one player I wanted to ask you about, and you kind of touched on a little bit, is DJ Moore. I'm really on him as a GPP upside, just the way, not just because he's a home run threat. They've been using him more. He's trending. His usage is trending, and they use him in so many different ways. Like he's even getting rushes and picking up 30, 40 yards rushing now. So he's so cheap too. Your thoughts?
Assumed he was a cash play. Is he not very well known this week?
Yeah, he's going to be probably 15-20% owned for sure, just because of his price and the way they've been using him lately. He's not getting a ton of targets, but he's had 5, and 6. Yeah, I don't know. Against Baltimore, against a tough defense last week, he caught 5 or 6 passes for 90 yards, and then he ran the ball twice for 39 yards, 18 DK points, and they left him at 4,300. I mean, he went up 700.
Matchup too. I don't even get it.
And Torrey Smith out, awesome matchup. He should be, he's 4,300 on DK. I think he should probably be 50, 5,200.
Yeah,
just for kind of his opportunity and stuff, but.
He should be a couple hundred less than Funchess at the most.
Yeah, for sure.
And
he doesn't have, per se, the touchdown upside of Funchess, but he's got the big playability that Funchess doesn't have. So I agree.
Yeah, I like that a lot. DJ Moore is someone I'm going to have a lot of exposure to today. He's probably my favorite play from that game, truthfully.
Yep. So moving on to the next game, we got KC at Cleveland. No real injuries notable for KC this week. Tyreek Hill was cleared. He's ready to go, so we're good there. I guess they're going to be chalky too. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the most expensive, but quarterback, so him and Cam are kind of be your chalk quarterbacks.
I think Mahomes is going to be shadily low owned into GPPs.
So you'd like the pivot going from Cam up to Mahomes. Who would you pair him with?
Kelsey, straight up. I'm paying up at tight end this week. I'm not playing any games.
Right on. Yeah,
I'm not convinced Cleveland's elite at defending tight ends yet.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just kind of, I use FanShare Sports quite a bit. Looking at they kind of take all of the DFS content out there and put it all together into tag counts and stuff, and then kind of project and stuff. So right now, Cam Newton, of course, leads the way with over 50 tags this week. And Patrick Mahomes has only got half as many tags. So I think that's a great pivot. No, Ryan's Fitzpatrick and then Jared Goff.
Yep,
so, I mean,
that's what I thought.
Mahomes is fourth in tags.
On that list, too.
Breeze is under Mahomes. So Breeze and Mahomes are going to be probably half the ownership.
I like them a lot for GPP, both of them, a lot.
Yep. Awesome pivots at half the ownership. Makes a ton of sense for sure.
And then everyone writes Breeze off because he's got bad game logs, you know, with the return of Ingram. But the truth is, people need to understand game script and game flow. Like New Orleans hasn't needed to throw the ball. They haven't needed to literally like really get points and keep and you know go back and forth with a team like the Rams. You know, this is I love this matchup today. I'm not fading Gurley 100%. Of course, that's crazy, but I think this is a shootout in the air today.
I'm with you on that. We'll talk about some of the plays I like when we get to that game. Over to the Cleveland side of things, Callaway is doubtful this week. I was kind of looking forward to maybe getting some upside with him against Cleveland.
I heard he's going to play, truthfully, this morning.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to double check that right here. Yeah, he was doubtful last night. So, yeah, he was upgraded to likely will play now. So, okay, we're good to go there. Kind of like him as an upside, but I'm kind of fading the Browns for the most part. They fired their head coach and their offensive coordinator. The only Brown I'm really looking at myself this week is Nick Chubb. I just feel he's too cheap.
100%. It's the only one for me too.
And someone asked me earlier today, what about the game script as they're going to be losing? I said, well, you know what? They lost the last 2 weeks on the road, and he got 18 carries in both those games. And he's got home run upside. So
first home start too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I like Chubb at his price at 4,500.
Honestly, if Chubb was 1,000 more, I would still probably take him, but it would be close.
And he'd probably be lower owned too.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be terribly high owned anyway, but definitely like him even in a losing game script because that was Pittsburgh and Tampa. Tampa's been pretty good against the run. Pittsburgh's been good against the run. And now you've got his best matchup out of those three, and he's had 18 carries in each of the last 2 weeks. So I think he sees his touches, and he's got home run upside. I would even consider him in cash at that price on DraftKings, 4,300. It just seems way too cheap for me. But that's anyone else on Cleveland that you're looking at. I know we talked off air, and I want to hear your little bit of tight end hate. I know you're fading Njoku. Is that correct?
No, I'm not. I mean, not 100%. I think he's, if anything, I like the recency bias of the people who will fade him. I think he's in a good matchup today. It'll be a shootout. Mayfield's going to need to find him, and Mayfield's got I think Higgins is back today too, so like it spreads it out a little bit. He's got some weapons again. I think this game is definitely going to be a shootout.
And the next game is Pittsburgh-Baltimore. Nothing notable for injuries. And like I'm not really interested in anything offensive on this side. Maybe a little bit of Antonio Brown differentiates. I don't think he's going to be very highly owned this week. He's one of my high-end wide receivers that I'll pay up for at low ownership to be a little bit different in GPPs. But I'm really looking at punting on DraftKings with the Steelers defense. I already talked about it a little bit just because Baltimore's O-line has been pretty crappy this year, ranking in the bottom 10 of the league. But really no one else that I'm looking at on either side of the ball besides those two players. Are you interested in James Conner this week?
I don't know. Baltimore did a pretty good job of shutting him down earlier this year, so I'm not like ecstatic about it. But it's not bad. I still expect it. The volume will be there, so he should get he'll get a ton of like dump offs. So I think on DraftKings it's okay. Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay, so into the Detroit-Minnesota game. It was the lowest of the four highest games that we talked about earlier in the intro. Nothing notable for injuries on the Detroit side of things. They did trade Golden Tate this week, which I think is going to help Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. Maybe a bit tougher matchup on paper, but Minnesota just ranks the middle of the league when it comes to passing defense. And Xavier Rhodes, even if he plays this week, is going to be not 100%. So I do like Galladay and Jones in my stacks with Stafford, and that's kind of one of my low-owned stacks that I'm really targeting this week because a lot of people will be on that Minnesota side of things. And then on the Minnesota side of things, Dalvin Cook's a game-time decision. This is just, as a Vikings fan, this is so frustrating because he's said all along that he's not coming back till he's 100%, and then he was going to be out early in the week, and then all of a sudden he was a game-time decision, and now he's going to test his hammy on the field before the game starts. They have a bye week next week. Why in the hell would they play Dalvin Cook this week with a bye week next week when Latavius Murray has been playing good for them out of the backfield? It drives me insane. So I hope he's out so I can get a little bit of Lat Murray in there, because Detroit's pass or rushing defense is absolutely horrible. But for me, the main thing I'm looking at today is going to be the other one is Diggs is probably not going to play this week. He's doubtful. I don't like going to Treadwell because, first of all, he's a crappy receiver. Second of all, he's going to get a ton of Darius Slay, who's an elite cornerback. I'm looking to Adam Thielen out of the slot. Slay doesn't go into the slot very often. Thielen's been playing like 70% of his snaps out of the slot. I like that matchup. He's going for the record 9th straight 100-yard game to beat Calvin Johnson against Calvin Johnson's old team. So Thielen for me, and even Kyle Rudolph is right up there at the top of my tight end list this week. Your thoughts on this game?
I think he's sorry. Putting my dog on his bed. He's like,
what's your dog's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, he likes it because he's making a lot of noise. But, sorry, I think Diggs' targets will go to Thielen and Rudolph. Treadwell will get some extra snaps, and Robinson will get some bump in usage too. But for me, it's Thielen and Rudolph that I would actually put in lineups because of it. I think Cook at most plays has 7 touches, if that. That's like his ceiling, in my opinion. Most likely either won't play if Zimmer's a good coach, in my opinion. So if he thinks that Cook somehow benefits from 3-4 touches and getting back on the field and just not getting hurt, then okay, he's been doing it longer than me. You know what I mean? I'm not so I'll revert to his expertise. But Melvin Gordon hurt his hamstring. They held him out in London, and they had a bye after, and he's probably going to be okay today because that's how you do it. Royce Freeman has a bad ankle. They have a bye next week. He's not going to play today because that's how most coaches do it. It's smart. Why push it? You got a bye coming up. So maybe Zimmer's just messing with Patricia and trying to get them to game plan for Cook. Throw some misinformation out there, but I have no interest in him regardless. Thielen, I think, is a very interesting GPP play because he's kind of hard to get in there today. Mm-hmm. And most people, it's just not it's the least appealing of the 4 high-scoring games. So it's not where your eyes go right away. And $9K is expensive, but he's the best receiver in the NFL right now, straight up. I'm comfortable saying that. I think he is the best receiver in NFL, definitely for fantasy purposes, this season. And I will say that. So yeah. I think he's top 2. There's not that many people you can argue are even in the same category as him. And I know people automatically say Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Hopkins. And Hopkins I agree with. But AB this year is something's up. And Julio, something, I don't know.
Julio doesn't get touchdowns.
Thielen.
And AB's only catching 55% of his passes. That's really the only difference. They're both kind of in that range. But for fantasy, Thielen's floor is he's in a level by himself this year with his floor.
Is out? Come on.
Yeah, 100% agree there. So moving on to the next game, we've got Atlanta at Washington. Atlanta coming off their bye week. Nothing really notable for injuries. I mean, Freeman's out for the season. We know that. So we got Coleman and Ito Smith situation again. I'm tired of trying to decide which one it's going to be. I think you can maybe get some low ownership going to Coleman just because people are sick of rostering him, and Ito Smith grabbing those goal line touchdowns. But for Atlanta, it's Matt Ryan and Julio Jones for me. I think coming out of a bye week, I think this may be the week that Julio does get a touchdown. And people are, he's been producing. He's right behind Thielen in receiving yards this year, but he's not scored a touchdown since week 12 last year. It's just absolutely crazy how long a stretch it's been. But I think this could be the week, and he's going to be low owned. I think Thielen is obviously going to be the highest owned of the high-priced wide receivers. So I like going with AB and Julio as maybe to differentiate your lineups. Julio is definitely going to be there for me against Washington. And then on the Washington side of things, Chris Thompson out, all the Adrian Peterson for me against Atlanta, whose rush defense is just not there. And Peterson, outside of 2 games this year, has had 90 or more yards in every game.
I like it.
He looks like Peterson in his late 20s. He's rushing the ball with confidence. He's smashing through. He had that breakthrough run last week. Everything's looking good there. So definitely looking at that. And that's kind of the guys I'm looking at in this game. I think Washington's the better team. So I like Peterson in the game script, and then Atlanta coming from behind, Matt Ryan and Julio. And then, if you want to go a little bit cheaper at tight end, Hooper's been getting a lot of targets there for Atlanta as well. So any thoughts for you on this game?
I think it's good analysis. This is a very sneaky game. It's under the radar. Maybe a little lower scoring than we think. It's kind of a stormy. I don't know. I don't know what the weather's like in Washington, but Washington defense has been pretty good this year. They're not bad. So I'm not anxious to throw in the Falcons. I think Tevin and Ito will still not 50-50. It's like 65-35, but Ito gets his touches. And they don't really care if it's red zone or not. If it's Ito's turn, they give him the ball. So, Tevin doesn't really have a lock on the goal line carries. So I like AP. His price is a little up, but the matchup is there. And it's tough to say that the Falcons will automatically be down, so the game script will favor him. But I think Washington should end up with the lead most of this game. So run is what should be most effective, so I would keep going to it. I like AP.
Speaking of pivots, I'm now pivoting from coffee to
is someone else.
Monster Energy.
Crazy.
Coffee's run out. Monster time.
Feel bad for your stomach. Anyway, Paul Richardson is someone that I would probably have interest in because Crowder's out and the Atlanta secondary is pretty soft.
Awesome.
And Thompson's out too. So.
Yep. Okay, so on to the next game. We've got the Chargers and Seattle. And Seattle's been a surprising offense lately. Russell Wilson has really shown some upside. He hasn't been getting the yards, but he's had three touchdowns in back-to-back. I think it's been 3 straight games now. So he's been kind of on fire here. Going up against the Chargers defense that is again without Joey Bosa, so the pass rush hasn't really been there. They don't have Jason Verrett. He's been out for the season since preseason there. So I think this is a spot where Russell Wilson can really keep it going here again this week. So I kind of like the Seattle side of things. It's going to be low owned because of the quarterbacks we already talked about that are going to be higher owned this week. I mean, you can't own all of them. They're not all going to be high owned. So I like definitely every week to week, I like building some stacks around some of those high scoring games. But for a lot of my GPP lineups now, I'm tending to go in a more contrarian direction. And Wilson is kind of one of those that I'm looking at this week. So that's definitely on play for me. Carson looks like he is going to be likely to play, but he's not going to be 100%. Same with Baldwin. Baldwin's not going to be 100% all season. And then on the Chargers side of things, Melvin Gordon looks like he's going to play. If word comes out that he's going to be limited or something, I think Eckler makes a nice GPP play. Your thoughts on this game?
I think Melvin Gordon's going to be totally healthy. I like this game a lot. It's sneaky, I could easily see it going for like 55 points as well. The Chargers coming off a bye, they've been winning games. They came off, before the bye, they had a win in London. So people haven't really watched them in a while, so I'm sure they forgot. But Melvin Gordon completely healthy is, almost as good of a back as Gurley in terms of fantasy production. He gets all the goal line carries. He gets receptions. He's, a 3-down back when they really need him to be. I'm not big on Keenan Allen this year. I like David Moore a lot. I think that's his name. Yeah, David Moore. The guy, he's had 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. They just cut Brandon Marshall, so that should open up some more snaps for him. He's 3,900 on DraftKings. He should be very low owned. I just read a great article on Pro Football Focus this week about how he was one of like 4 or 5 people who were just totally been like a first half of the season MVP, very under the radar, but just a superstar. And I like him. He's like a 7th round pick a year ago or something. Carson gets a lot of volume, but he's been banged up, but he got 2 different injuries, but I expect him to play. But I wouldn't be surprised if they limited him a little bit and gave a bunch of his carries to Mike Davis. I don't know. It's interesting. I like David Moore the most in this game of anybody.
I like that call because, Lockett was kind of going off early in the season, getting those touchdowns, and then teams I feel like defensive coordinators really made the adjustment on Lockett and shut him down, and that's when David Moore jumped out, and he's got 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. He's in 97 yards last week, so he's not getting all the targets, but he's getting the yards per reception, and he's getting the touchdowns. He's getting those end zone targets, which is huge. So I definitely like that. If I'm stacking Wilson, which I'm going to be as a contrarian GPP play, I'm going to be going David Moore over Lockett for the most part. I will have a little bit of Lockett because I feel like he's going to be low owned, letting people down lately, and David Moore has kind of been the guy that's trending. But still, under 4K, I'll take a ton of David Moore this week. So I agree with you there. So moving on to the next game, we've got 2 games to go here. We've got Houston at Denver. Houston just picked up Demaryius Thomas, and with Kiki Kute out and Fuller out for the season, I think it's the Hopkins and Thomas show. We can stack him with Watson for sure. Definitely going that route. Thomas, I'm a little less, I guess, bullish on, just because moving over to a new offense.
I want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm definitely.
No.
I meant that's like definitely like a main thing for me in this game. Kiki Kuti is out and Will Fuller's out as well. So I actually like Thomas. He's had some experience in a similar playbook with I'm forgetting one of his old coaches in Denver like a year or 2 ago. And then Hopkins really worked hard with him this week, apparently, to just teach him and give him a crash course and buddy up with him and just get him caught up. Thomas is going to be in there. They need him to be. He's 4,500. It's somewhat of a revenge game, obviously. He hasn't been happy in Denver. I like it. I think they need him in there, and he's going to have a good day. I do. 4,500, I think he'll end up hitting value.
Awesome. And then on the Denver side of things, I've been mentioning this all day. That's, it's kind of got that revenge narrative for Demaryius Thomas. I don't think it's more revenge. It's more of like a thank you. Thank you for sending me to a better quarterback.
Yeah.
But on the Denver side of things, you've got Sutton, who's still really cheap right now because of this trade, and he was 3rd in the pecking order. He's now going to jump to 2nd, and even when he was 3rd in the pecking order, he's top 5 or top 6 in the league with 8 end zone targets so far this year. He's like 6'3", 218 pounds. He's a big wide receiver. He's got that touchdown upside, even with Case Keenum. Like I said, he's got all those end zone targets. Definitely like Sutton in this spot because I feel this is the time to get on him, whether he's 15 to 20% in GPPs or not. He's going to be $5,500 or more, probably in that 6K range next week on FanDuel, $5,500 on DraftKings next week. His price is going to skyrocket. So I maybe like that better going forward because he's going to be less owned, but this is a time to definitely get some value out of him, I think.
Yep. Sutton will probably be the most highly owned player of the week, in my opinion. Rightfully so, though. So I have no problem with it.
So moving on, we got, of course, the game 60 over under the Rams and Saints.
Oh, sorry. I mean, my mistake. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I apologize. Just real quick before you move on, Royce Freeman's not going to play. I like Phil Lindsay just for volume purposes alone, and Booker's an interesting punt for GPP.
Yeah, definitely. I remember you were mentioning that, so sorry I jumped ahead too fast. The Rams and the Saints, what's your thoughts on this 60 over under? What players are you most targeting out of this game? How do you feel game flow is going to go?
My brain is, going to explode from this, man. I don't really know what to do. I think Drew Brees, we talked about this, is an awesome GPP play. Even Goff somewhat too. I guess it'll be a little less of a surprise. People are on him, but, it's easy to get horny, so to speak, and want to play Mahomes and Cam just because they're games at 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? Sometimes it sounds funny, but that really does happen to people. They want to, the minutes are ticking before the games start and they want to, fuck it, Cam's on. I want to watch the game real quick. Maybe they have somewhere to go later in the day and they can't necessarily watch the guy play. I'm not saying that to everybody, but, so I do like Goff as a little bit of under the radar. Kupp is back. So it's kind of tough to really pick a favorite receiver. I do like Cooks going back to New Orleans. I think he's got a little bit of a GPP revenge narrative to it with a very high ceiling, with obviously a little bit of a lower floor too. He's been less involved as he's come back from concussion and the games. Truthfully, Green Bay just played very good defense on him, which is going to happen every now and then. It's not like they weren't targeting him or, hurt himself or something. They just played good D. So that'll happen every now and then. It's safe to say New Orleans doesn't play that similar type of defense. Marshawn Lattimore will probably be dealing with Robert Woods most of the day, I would imagine. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting, actually. Does PFF say anything about who Lattimore will be guarding?
No, I haven't seen. I haven't checked that out. I'll have to dig into that a little bit. I would suspect it's going to be
Woods or
I think you're going to see a little bit of both, but I would probably put Lattimore more on Woods myself.
I don't think he's got the speed for Cooks.
No, I mean, Cooks has got a ton of speed. So, yeah, not 100% sure there what's going to happen.
I like Traquan Smith a lot as a GPP play in this game. He's 4,200. He had a very, very good game at home. The last time they were throwing the ball when Breeze was going for that record. He's the number 2 receiver now. He's getting the bulk of the snaps there. You don't have to worry about Cam Meredith. He's 4,200. Traquan Smith is one of my favorite GPP plays of the day.
Yeah, and back to the Cooks Woods thing for, with Lattimore. Cooks plays like, I think, over 50% of his snaps on the left side of the field. And Lattimore, he really, for the most part, like 70% plus, I believe, on the right side. I mean, that matches up right side of the defense, left side of the offense. So I kind of feel in Cooks. And for me in cash games, if that's the case, I really like Woods. Whether Kupp has been in the lineup or not, Woods has had 70-plus yards in every game besides week 1, and that's just a really high floor player. So he's more the floor guy for me, while Cooks is more the upside guy, the home run. And in those 7 games where Woods has had 70 or more yards, he's had 100-plus yards 3 times. So Woods is definitely my favorite play for all formats. Cooks will be in there for GPPs. Kupp, I just don't feel that he's going to be 100% yet. He has an amazing matchup in the slot against. Okay, here's a question for you. This shocked the hell out of me. PJ Williams in the slot has been absolutely terrible this year. He gave up like so many catches last week in the Minnesota game, but he had that one fluky pick 6. I call it fluky because Diggs kind of stopped his route there. He got the defensive player of the week. What the hell?
Yeah, I know, right? Crazy.
Just because of the one fluky pick 6, they gave him the defensive player of the week. Drove me nuts.
Yeah. There wasn't much to choose from.
So I think Kupp's got upside going against Williams, but I don't think he's 100%. I think they're going to be throwing to the other 2 guys more in this game, high-scoring game like this. So that's kind of my take on the game. I really like Woods here.
Yeah, so do I.
So is there any – that kind of covers all the games today. Answered. I can see there's no more questions in there. Is there anyone else that you're really looking at that we maybe didn't talk about today? Anyone that's on your radar? And I guess here's my question for you. I'll put it this way. We talked off air that you were thinking of maybe in your lineups that you're going to make this week, picking out like 1 or 2 players who you're going to build around, who they're your guys, whether they're going to be high-owned, low-owned, whether the industry's talking about them or not. They're going to be your guys, and you're going to build around them. I love that style of building GPP lineups. Who are your 2 guys this week?
Well, one of them is definitely David Moore with the Seahawks, the one we just talked about. I think he's very easily overlooked this week. Everyone's eyes are going right to Cortland Sutton. DJ Moore literally has the same initials, and everyone's got him in their lineup. So I think it sets up really well for David Moore to be someone that's extremely low-owned this week, and that's very appealing to me, especially with the fact that they just cut Brandon Marshall. We know the Chargers are going to put up points, so I think everything really sets up for David Moore to be an excellent, excellent GPP play today. That's definitely one of them, and I don't want to reach and just come up with a second one just because. So if you have any thoughts for 30 seconds or whatever, talk about it, and I'm going to try and think if there's anyone else like Moore, because I don't want to just say someone just because.
For sure. Someone that I'm probably going to go back to just for some GPP upside that maybe isn't being talked about a ton this week is Taylor Gabriel. He was doing good. We talked about him a few weeks ago on the show. He's crapped the bed pretty much the last 2 weeks. With Allen Robinson likely out again this week, or at least limited, I think we can go back to him. His price has come down. The Bears are going up against the Bills, who have been a top 10 defense against the pass. But I do like Gabriel as a low-owned guy. And someone that we maybe didn't talk about, no, nothing there. Running backs, tight ends, like I said, Rudolph, I like going to him. I think with this Diggs news, his ownership's going to go up a little bit. Quarterback, I talked about it a little bit. We didn't talk about Mitch Trubisky, so I kind of like Gabriel and Trubisky there for low owned. Talked about Russell Wilson a little bit, and then Matt Stafford. I really like the Detroit passing game this week. Without Golden Tate there, I think Kenny Golladay coming, I think he can be a wide receiver 1. Marvin Jones is more your end zone guy. He, I believe, leads the league now in end zone targets. So Stafford's definitely be going to him in the end zone no matter the matchup. Like I said, Rhodes isn't going to be 100% even if he plays. So I do like the Detroit passing game this week. Did you come up with someone else?
Yeah, I think Traquan Smith, honestly. I think these guys are both very low owned with a lot of upside, and they're good price. I'm not saying they're going to be like single digits ownership, but They're very easily overlooked, and there's a lot of other good matchups. And I already explained to you my reasoning on David Moore. I think that's pretty cool that he's got the same initials as someone who's going to be much higher owned this week. So that genuinely is a good reason why I think people will overlook him. As well as just, it's not the same initials, same last name and everything. So I love David Moore, Sutton, DJ Moore, and Traquan Smith in a lineup.
Awesome. Then a couple questions before we go here in chat. I want your opinion on Fitz. Will Fitz bring the magic or the tragic this week?
That's actually what someone said.
That's a question. I love it.
I like that. He's going to bring the magic, but they're going to lose.
Nice. I like it. I mean, I like him with Evans. That upside for Evans, I think, is there this week. So
good play, but he's not a good guy to bet on in money line.
Yeah. And then the last question here, is Gurley a must in cash games this week, in your opinion? I don't think he is with his price, and especially on the early, or I guess he's not on the early slate, sorry. I built a lot of cash games this week, and when I try and get Gurley in there, it feels like I'm taking a lot of risks with these low-end wide receivers. So myself, I'm going a more balanced approach at running back and kind of fading Gurley. And I know you had mentioned it earlier that you're probably not 100% fading Gurley, but I think I know what your answer is here. Is he a must for you in cash?
No. There's usually on 10-game weeks, like the last two, honestly, there haven't been a lot of good plays, but this slate's different. I really like the teams playing. Some of the tougher defenses are off. The Rams, New Orleans is a hell of a game. Houston, Denver is going to be a fun game. KC, Cleveland is going to be a very fun game. There's like 5 or 6 really good games this week. A lot of value. And even in the ones that I'm not mentioning, there's little sneaky value. So it's just a good week. So I don't think you need to jam Gurley in there. I really don't. Because
awesome.
Look, it's not even about his price. Because if Gurley was going to go, if I actually thought he was going to go for like 40, 50 points or whatever, I would say, yeah, he's a must. But I think Gurley arguably gets outscored by Kamara. And I definitely think like Kareem Hunt, McCaffrey, Melvin Gordon, you can go on and on and on. There's like 5 guys that are, and then you go down the list. You mentioned Adrian Peterson's pretty sneaky. Lindsey's due for a ton of volume today. Chubb's 4,500 is going to get 18 plus touches. A lot of options. I don't think you really need to jam Gurley in.
Yep, 100% agree. So that kind of takes care of everything here this week. Make sure if you're not a RotoPros member, you can get over there and get a 2-week free trial. Gives you access to our community chat that we get in. We're pretty much there, not 24/7, but a lot of the time, especially before lock on NBA, NHL. Rob's there for soccer. You're there for NBA. I'm there for NHL, NFL, NASCAR, PGA. We got a ton of articles, content on RotoPros.com. And, the one-on-one coaching, the communities where we really try and thrive and really help people out to learn how to build better lineups. And that's kind of what we're here to do. I mean, we're here for the people. So get over there, get your 2-week free trial, sign up. And just kind of a note for next week. I know I didn't talk to you about this off air, but I won't be available to do the Sunday morning show. I'm going to Phoenix to watch the NASCAR race next weekend. So I won't be available Sunday morning. So we might try and get something going Saturday night if that works for Josh. But we'll see next week and try and get something out there for you guys, looking at injuries and kind of going game by game to give you our favorite plays. So never fear. And make sure to like the video and subscribe. And when you do that, hit the notification button, and you will get notifications whenever we have new videos out, whether they're pre-recorded. Once they go live on the YouTube channel, RotoPros, you will get notifications of those. So stay tuned. There's a ton of more content to come.
Absolutely.
And with that,
our user league too, listener league.
Yeah, right. We got the DraftKings league. It's filling up. Limited entries here this week, so make sure to get in there. The winner's going to get the cash, like I said. You're going to get a RotoPros shirt that Josh is wearing. Show him again, Josh.
Sorry.
Right there, RotoPros.com t-shirt. And then the winner also gets to join Josh, Harris, Rob, and I in the 5-man contest next week for some more cash prizes. So make sure to jump into that. And with that, like I said, make sure to like the video, give us all your feedback, what you'd like to see more of us talk about on the show, and pretty much anything. We're here for you guys. With that, let's get some green screens, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Chris, great job. Cheers, everybody.